What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode of the Star Wars Exchange. Check out that new logo if you're on YouTube. How cool does that look? It's been 1 year since we started this Star Wars Exchange show, at least me and Mike collaborating together. So, yeah, it's been a wild year, and today we're just going to kind of talk about like the year that it's been, reflect, talk about all the memories, because there's been so much has happened this year, both with like the podcast, with Star Wars, with me and Mike, me flying to America to meet Mike in person, all sorts of stuff, and also we've got a update for the podcast, just a bit of a different way of doing things. There's going to be some minor tweaks and adjustments to the show, but we'll talk about that later in the episode. I'll put a timestamp if that's all you want to hear about. But before we get into anything, Mike, how you going today? It's been a week or two, three since the Andor finale, so it's been a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, we've just been waiting, letting the dust settle a little. We've also been very busy and stuff
Mm-hmm.
with other things and stuff, so dealing with life and all that stuff. So we appreciate
Yeah.
everyone being patient and stuff like that. And everyone, you know what, Ari, I'm doing good because everyone was sending us their Spotify Wrapped, especially the
Oh yeah.
podcast section, and we were so many people's number ones, and it
Oh
was
man,
just
52
insane.
people had the Stars Exchange as their number one podcast, and that's just on Spotify. So,
That's
and that's like
that's
one of
insane.
our least platforms. We got Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all that. That's just Spotify. So that was awesome to see.
That was awesome. And like, if you're asking me how I'm doing, I kind of feel all things. I feel excited because it's, Christmas time, the new year's approaching. But, during this time too, it's a time of reflection. And, just before we hopped on, to record, you and I were in a call and we were just like reminiscing of, some of the highlights of this year and stuff, which we'll get into. And it's just been an incredible year. And it's you don't I was in preparation for this 1 year celebration of of us starting this partnership. I listened back to our very first podcast episode, which was more an announcement,
Yeah.
and we've come a long way. And not to say that production was bad or anything, but just like
Yeah.
our friendship, our
Oh man.
our voices on the mic. It's just so
Hmm.
funny. Like, it's crazy where we started and where we are now a year later and all the crazy adventures we've had and stuff. So yeah, I feel a little a little sentimental and stuff because it's
Hmm.
it's something great to look back at and being like, wow, like that all really happened. So oh yeah, I feel all over the place, but excited to be back here sitting here for the Star Wars Exchange for one of the last times for this year. So but we still have lots to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How about you, Ari? What's been going on with you?
Oh man, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I've had a lot going on, to say the least. But it feels really good to be back podcasting, because it's something I miss. I've been talking to Star Wars a bit to my girlfriend lately, and I've been going on these 20-30 minute rambles, and I just feel so sorry for her. And I just, every time I finish one, I go, God, I need to get back on the show with Mike. This is killing me. But speaking of those Spotify Wraps, I wanted to say a few more stats that we saw. We're in the top 15% of most followed podcasts on Spotify, so I think that's pretty cool. Also, since Mike joined the podcast, the listenership, or whatever you want to call it, has gone up 996%, and that's just in the last year. So that's just something that's this year we've just gone 10 times the listener base that we were previously, which is fantastic. We were in 180 people's top 10, 128 people's top 5, and as we said, 52 people's number one.
Wow.
So that's something some people might think whatever, but for me and Mike, that's something to celebrate. We're really proud of that. And yeah, obviously, like, this is just like the most cliche thing ever, but it's like, you really don't, when you're podcasting, at least for me, I don't really care who's listening, who's not. It's just nice that people do, and it's great. We've got people like Shane and John Michael and Richard and all those people that are listening all the time. And that's great, but it's just it's rewarding to have such a big audience of people listening to us do just ramble about Star Wars sub-weekly. So
Yeah.
it's been a crazy adventure. But let's talk about this year, because um it's it's been a year for sure. I think probably it's my first year out of high school. Actually, it's probably been the best year of my life, to be honest. I finished my first semester of college, my first two semesters, sorry, my first year. But in between those two semesters, I got to travel to the US for 2 months for the absolute highlight of the year. I started off in LA, where on my second day, Mr. Rivera over here arrived, and we got to meet for the first time. So let's talk about that, because I think that is the highlight of the year. So tell us about it, Mike, because it was quite the time.
That's your highlight of the year.
I
Meeting
think
me.
it is. I think it's mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
say, try and yeah, I for me, yeah, it probably would also be the highlight of the year, just because, um, well, yeah, we've been to podcasting and stuff. Like Ari and I talk like every single day or every day that we could, and it was
Yeah.
just this friendship that was building up to us meeting. And you can hear the more lengthy part of it and the whole story at our one of our videos covering it, like our celebration experience,
Yeah.
because
But
that's
we
in there.
talked for like 20 minutes about what it was like meeting each other.
It was, but I still go back, and there's this video that Ari actually recently shared with me about. He like recorded when I entered the lobby where we met at, and he had like a
Mm.
video recording, and you just heard like you can't really see anything, but you just hear like audio, and both of us were just like ecstatic and giddy, and like you could just
This video. Yeah.
so it's you know it's just something that it was pretty cool, because his family was rooting for him on his side, like, yeah, meet Mike, and my family was rooting for me to meet Ari. So it was like
Mm.
when we finally crossed paths, it just felt like, I don't know, it was just very cool, like that we got to meet each other in person and stuff. And then once we met each other, it was just like we have a whole weekend of fun and stuff. And yeah, it was just, I still look back at this Galaxy Edge picture that I have with me and Ari, and I just look at it and I'm like, that happened, so yeah, honestly, that would have to be the highlight, because never did I think it's starting this podcast. I was like, yeah, like I'll grow close to Ari and stuff, and we'll have all these like fun things happen and stuff. But the amount where it went to was just like peak life, I felt like. And then
Hmm.
even when he came over in Chicago. But yeah, it was that moment just excellent, and we just had a weekend of fun and stuff. And also a whole bunch of people were waiting for that to happen, like all the listeners, and like, oh, you guys finally met. Like the
Yeah.
Instagram went
Oh, that was
crazy.
so cool.
It
I
went
remember when
crazy.
we did that post where there was like, it was only like 4 slides, and it was just random pictures we took. We did like a 10-minute photo shoot, which was hilarious. We've
Hilarious.
been sharing some of those photos this week, actually. Um, and then yeah, people in the comments were going nuts, mostly making fun of you for how short you are. But but there was a lot of people who were just happy that we were meeting. That was like such a weird feeling. People being like, "I can't believe you got to meet that person." I was like,
Right.
I can't believe you care, but I'm
Yeah,
so
right.
like humbled and happy that you actually do. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Also, we just talked about the picture. I don't know if we showed this. I might have showed this on the other one, but this is me and Mike. About, it's a bit bright, but that was us after like 2 seconds with each other, because I was filming it, and I was like waiting for him to come through the door, and that was like the only thing we actually got of it, because I was just filming the ground the whole time, because I like just ran up to him straight away. Um, but yeah, that was a big highlight of like sort of on the more personal side, I guess. What's a second or third favorite highlight of the podcast or something like that from this year for
So
you?
many. I mean, this moment wouldn't have happened without the interview that we did with Daniel Jose Older, but like
Mm.
this
Oh
is one
yeah,
of them
I know what
where
you're gonna say.
we
Yeah.
were we were, we actually got early access to the High Republic panel because we were media, and the lady let us in. We had a funny combo with her. And oh yeah, there he goes. And the guy, the man, Daniel Jose Older, like I like hit Ari. I was like, he was sitting next to me. I'm like, Ari. I'm like, is that Jose Older? Like I melted in my seat. And then we both popped up, and he's like, hey, I didn't know you guys were gonna be here. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
no
yeah,
way. He like remembered us all the way since
yeah,
February, and we gave him a big old hug, and then we took a epic picture with him, which obviously Davis was able to capture that. But
yeah.
what a
Here it
moment.
is.
It just it was full circle, because during that time too, during that month of February, like, that's such an epic photo. And look at that celebration background, that well-known background. It's just like it's surreal. Like
Right
Ari's
there.
first
Yeah.
celebration too. I mean, but
Yeah.
during that time, during the interview era of when we were setting up with Danny Jose Odo, I mean, it was my big first interview and Ari's as
Mm,
well. And we were both
mm.
like amped up with excitement. And then we also got talking about celebration and how we were hoping to meet each other and stuff. So like that picture is just very symbolic of a lot of things. So yeah, I would say that's another highlight. And then another highlight would be like just I had so much fun from that period of, and this was, I mean, there's other things in person too with the podcast I had so much fun with, but like I remember specifically this era of anticipation for celebration and meeting each other. And
Yeah.
and during that time we covered the Lego Star Wars game,
Oh man,
the Star
that
Wars
was
Brotherhood
so
book.
fun. Yeah.
Like we just had so much going on and we just did it all. And that was, there we
Just
go.
pulling out all the gadgets right now.
And hold it up one more time, because by the way, congratulations. This was Ari's first early review copy
Oh yeah.
from Del Rey. So
Yeah, it
kudos.
was.
Kudos to the man. He
That's
did
another
it.
highlight of the year.
Yeah. So
Getting on that list.
he had called me as soon as he got that book, and he
Yeah.
FaceTimed me and he's like, "Look what I got." And he,
Yeah.
yeah, I think he had just woken up too. He didn't have a shirt on. Like it was just the
Oh
funniest
man.
thing. But he was just like, "Look what I got." I was like, "Let's go." So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of surreal moments this year, and I still get like giddy about that brotherhood moment, because it was just like we got to finally read a book together. Because I remember when I had read
Yeah,
Fallen
yeah.
Star, we were barely starting up with the podcast, and I had
Mm,
read it like
mm.
a month prior, and I remember you
Yeah,
texting me
yeah.
updates and stuff about you reading the book, like you used
Yeah.
to do with Rising Storm. Remember those days before
Yeah,
we
yeah.
even, yeah, we were
Oh
like
man, that's like
acquainted.
more than a year ago now, which is
More than
crazy
a
to think
year.
about.
Yeah,
But
so yeah,
yeah,
those are some
definitely.
highlights for me. How about you?
For sure. I mean, there's so many. Just one that comes to mind immediately is just like the relationship that we've been able to build with like a great friend of both of ours now, Parks Artur. He's been on the podcast like more than 5 times, I think.
Yeah,
And I remember
love
both
him.
of us would like we used to watch like his videos and just like, love them. They've got like millions of views, which is pretty cool. And so then I think he came on of one of like our first episodes together when we were doing Book of Boba Fett coverage, which that's another highlight. The show was a disappointment, but the coverage was was the best part of it. But but yeah, so just building that relationship with him to the point where like really recently when Mike's been unavailable, he stepped in and did the co-hosting role, which was super fun. And he did the Tales of the Jedi episode for us and like all this sort of stuff, which was super nice of him. And yeah, that's been like our strongest like connection, I feel like. So and
Yeah.
Parks will continue to be on. And what's awesome for us is he actually listens to all the episodes and he comments on YouTube, and I'm sure he'll be on this one commenting. So yeah, but we absolutely love Parks. So
Like for
yeah.
example, last time for the finale when Ari had to go after we recorded, he left, but I
Mm,
stood talking to Parks on
yeah.
StreamYard, where we record for 2 hours. We were sitting
Yeah.
there talking about anything and everything, and we ended up talking about like even Clone Wars, just fanboying, because
Mm,
I mean, go check out his series by the way too. I finished my Clone Wars marathon. Now I'm getting through Parks's commentary on them, so
it's
go check that
essentially.
out. But
Yeah.
yes, we love Parks here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad for that.
Um, yeah, let's talk about another interesting era of the show, which was post us meeting. I was in New York staying with my brother. Obi-Wan was airing. I had no background. It was just like a white wall. That was an interesting time because I think what I think was funniest to me most about it was so after Celebration ended, we'll talk about this in a second, but me and Mike went to Disneyland, which we'll touch on. But and then after that, we were in an Uber together that was dropping you off at LAX and then dropping me off at a hostel I was staying at for a
Oh
few
yeah.
nights in LA. And then I think episode 3 of Obi-Wan came out that night. And the next morning, I'm like looking through my bag for my camera. I'm like, where is it? I text Mike, do you have my camera? And he's got my camera in his bag. And like, I'm just thinking, oh God, my camera's going to do a loop of the United States before I get back home. And so I think our first Obi-Wan review is like the crappiest quality ever because it's for me at least, because I'm using the integrated camera on my laptop, which was just horrible. But it's I in hindsight I'm glad it happened just because it's so like funny to look back on now. But and then Mike sends out the camera to New York, even though I was going to be in Chicago like a few weeks after. It was just like we needed that so I could do the episodes. And then yeah, anyway, so then my camera just did a little loop around from LA to Chicago to New York, back to LA to
Oh,
Colorado. Like
so
anyway,
funny.
that was funny. But yeah, covering Obi-Wan was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was also cool for us because we were in the same like almost time zone. We were now Ari was awake before I was now.
Yeah,
So it was
true.
pretty cool because then we got to organize and watch the Obi-Wan series together. Now episode 3
Yeah.
because he had to watch at a weird time in his
Oh
at the place
yeah.
he was
I
staying.
was I was watching it on my phone in a bunk bed with AirPods on.
And then with the
Yeah.
guy above him snoring really loud. No, just kidding. But like, and for me, I was just like tired from like the whole trip, and I still hadn't unpacked, obviously. And I had just gotten
Yeah.
home, and I was just like, I woke up pretty excited to go. I remember getting, oh yeah, we need to bring our blue milk cups back. Where are they?
I have no idea. I think we just threw them out. Oh, you mean those cups? Right. I
Yes.
saw mine the other day. It's somewhere in my kitchen, but yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
do
need
need to
it.
bring them back.
Same. I need to bring that back because I remember first thing I did was go serve myself breakfast, get that cup from Galaxy's Edge, and
Yeah.
pour myself some OJ, sit down and watch the New Kenobi episode. Then texted Ari. But yeah, that time was really cool. Just because for me it was getting towards like the peak of summer, so it was just nice to go watch Kenobi, then go outside chill, and then Ari would be like, "You want to watch it together again?" I'm like, "Yes." So I'd
Yeah.
go back into my room or whatever and lounge and watch that again and
Yeah.
experience it. And it was just really fun covering it. I remember the finale. We did an editorial where we just talked for like 10 minutes, our like reactions, and then we went into detail with parks, and that was our final podcast episode before you came here to stay with me in
Yeah.
Chicago. So that was
Yeah.
insane. What a
Another
time! What a
just
time!
yeah, another memory you sparked was with those cups. At least for me, I think you might have been doing this as well. I was just going and getting like LaCroix from my brother's fridge because we don't have those in Australia. And I was loving it. I was like, oh, this is great. Bit of sparkling water. Love this. Pouring them into that cup and then drinking it during the podcast. So
Yes. Yep.
that was
Same.
also another fun little thing. Like before we go to Chicago, let's talk about Disneyland because that was something else we did, and a bit more celebration because that's worth bringing up, even though
Oh
we
yeah.
have a whole episode talking about that. But yeah, Disneyland, of course, we have episodes covering all this stuff, but to talk about it, like looking back on it now, like I think like when was it? May, almost 6-7 months ago.
6 months ago.
Um, yeah, it's crazy to think that we did that. I look at some of those photos, like I've got one right here actually. Of us at the Falcon. I'm just like cannot believe that we were there and this is a moment that exists in time. But yeah, tell me about what you're thinking about Galaxy's Edge 6 months later.
I want to go back. I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to go back very soon with
Yeah.
someone or people or I'm just like I want to go back.
Yeah.
I hope Ari and I can experience that together again because that was so much
Yeah.
fun. And I mean we got there and we like it was funny because we were just like darting as soon as we hit Disneyland. Actually, that morning we had our last breakfast for the celebration run with Davis and
Yeah.
True. We
Oh,
had
that's
breakfast
right.
with
Yeah.
them and said bye and everything. And it was, even I remember hugging True and Davis. I was like, I'm gonna miss y'all because I don't know when it's the
Yeah.
next time I'm gonna see them. So I like gave him a tight hug, and Ari was like, "I'm chill with Davis because I'm gonna see him in Colorado pretty soon, but see you
Yeah.
True whenever."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was like yeah, really cathartic to like have a nice like sit down and like put a finish to celebration, and then jumping into our it was just gonna be you and me now, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting, But it was so much fun, and I mean, talk about rides that I feel like are never gonna be top for me. Like when I thought
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge, a Star Wars, theme park, I'm like, oh great, like a roller coaster with like designed in an X-wing or TIE fighter. I'm like, great. No, like
Yeah.
this was like just something that I could have never possibly imagined. Like it just felt
Mm.
so surreal. I mean, I still have a video where Ari was freaking out on the ride, being like, what the heck is going on? And that's just the vibe it was. Even though I knew what I
Yeah.
was going into, it was just
Yeah.
still such a trip. And um Ari was able to we were doing another run of Smuggler's Run, and that oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was
Mm.
funny. That was
Yeah.
epic. I forgot about that. But yeah, all those moments, and while in line for that, Ari was able to snag us a spot at Uga's Cantina, and we got to sit there
Oh,
and
that's right.
or
Yeah.
stand there and like it just felt like we are in the Star Wars universe, and we
Oh
like
man.
mingled with these people from all over
Yeah.
parts of the US that they were all
People that had
friends to.
also met online, they were also online friends, so it was funny talking to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, guess what? He's from Australia." And they're like, "Oh, wow." So, we had such a good conversation with them, and oh yeah, what a and then after we got out, we got back in line, or we went to line for Rise of Resistance one last time, and then the fireworks at the end too were something else because
Oh yeah.
that was pretty epic. I remember I was trying to buy stuff, like get, last minute shopping things, and then you just hear a boom, and I turned to Ari, I'm like, those are the fireworks, and it was
Yeah.
just epic, and even the Falcon photo is still unreal to me, and yeah, all those
Yeah.
moments were just experiencing Star Wars in a different fashion, in like a 3D actual life type thing was just insane. So I would
Yeah.
kill to do that
Yeah.
again.
I tell you what, it's the funniest things you remember about these things because when you're talking about Ogre's Cantina, I think when you go in there, they say like you have to buy a drink or something like that.
Oh no.
But I like just didn't want to drink any alcohol at the time just because I was looking after myself and I had to. Also, I'm not 21 and in America, let's not get into that. But anyway, so I was like, I don't want to buy like a alcohol free drink, and so I just got like the cheapest food item on the menu, and it was like $9 for like just the
$8.
crappiest like I don't even know what it was. It was just like these dry like pieces of biscuit that felt like they'd been sitting out for like 2 years. So
It was like
if you
trail
go to
mix or
Ogre's
whatever.
Cantina, like
Yeah.
yeah, like be ready to just spend money or else you're just gonna get crap pretty much. But yeah, that was interesting. Anyways, yeah, Galaxy's Edge, what a time.
Food review by
Let's
Ari.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting. I'll tell you what though, the Ronto wrap, I liked that quite a bit. That was good.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
But also the blue milk was good as well. But
Oh yeah, that
um
was both instances, by the way. Ari finished all my stuff. I'm like, Ari, take this. I don't want any more. Like I was just full, and Ari
Mike's
would
weak
just
stomach couldn't handle it.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. But yeah,
But
the food was great.
yeah, let's talk about Celebration for a second. I think there's so many highlights from that. We were in every panel. We were in the Mando panel, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, Lucasfilm showcase, everything. Like, what a surreal experience seeing the first ever live action footage of the Ahsoka series, seeing that together, seeing the reveal of Sabine Wren, even though we were a bit disappointed by it. Bad Batch, getting a look at that, getting to watch a Tales of the Jedi episode like 6 months before the
Yeah,
series came out.
forgot about that.
Seeing Hayden and Ewan on stage together the day of the Obi-Wan premiere, going to the Obi-Wan premiere, like what an absolute time that was. It was definitely a shame that while that was all going on, we weren't able to like really fully cover it the way we wanted on the podcast. But between my jet lag and the exhaustion of Celebration and like just everything and like crappy internet connections and just all sorts of stuff, it was just like way too hard. But we there is definitely still some content there on the channel that you can go watch. But yeah, there was definitely. I remember day one, I was up from 2 a.m. and went to sleep at 2 a.m. It was like a 24-hour day. I was so exhausted and I was so jet lagged, but it was just still an absolute blast. What are some of your memories of Celebration?
I remember being stunted, or I think we said blue balled here before, but I feel like, because I couldn't have fun after Celebration, because, I'd be invited places by Drew Davis or whatever, like, oh, let's go hang out here. And Ari
Yeah,
was like, sorry, y'all, I'm jet lag. I gotta go. And I was like, well, I gotta go with them. So,
yeah,
no, no, no. I remember those moments for sure, though, because I did still feel like kind of doing something, but then I was like, it's probably best to get some rest because
yeah.
it
No,
was.
Mike was a very good friend on Celebration because I was a little bit sick at the time as well, just from the exhaustion.
Oh,
So
right.
he did look after me when I needed looking after for a bit there. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the whole celebration experience. I mean, again, go check out our episode. We literally did a whole episode about it in the days after, and it was so weird too because Ari was
yeah,
already in New York, settled in, and he said, "Let's do a
yeah,
celebration review." And I remember I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I remember being at the mall
yeah.
with my now girlfriend, and I was just like, "Oh, gotta go! I gotta go record a podcast." But yeah, like it was just. I
I didn't
mean,
even know that was what was happening.
it was just so it's even now it's still so surreal because I was just telling Ari the other day that it just feels like I'm still at Chicago Celebration, like I, viewing this last season of Clone Wars with season 7, I'm like, how am I here? Like I remember watching, with a close friend of mine at the time. Like I had experienced Clone Wars with him since I was like, really young, or when I was just getting into. We were both just getting into the Instagram sphere, and we finally got to watch this like new trailer of Clone Wars, and it just felt so surreal. And I
Yeah.
would say next to him, and now I'm like here, like it's just insane. And
Yeah.
watching the Clone Wars season 7, and then I think of Anaheim, and I'm like, what a whirlwind! Like I had so much fun at Chicago Celebration, but Anaheim just like absolutely topped it and then
Yeah.
some. Like it was just
Oh
not
yeah.
just because of the news and stuff, but like just the people around. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was just still so
Me,
much
me,
to.
you, True, and Davis, like the four of us just had like so much fun together. Like it was
Yeah,
a
we did.
roller coaster of a weekend, but like I want to have an episode. We should have done it maybe at the time, but like us two and those two on the show to talk about that some more, because there was some things that
Yeah,
happened
we
that
could. Yeah,
that
we could
trip
still
that I
do
just
it.
think, yeah, for
We
sure. Like
we
I'm just thinking of I think it was the last night of Celebration, like our last night with those guys, and we were like at the pool at their hotel, and I was just watching some of the videos and the antics we were getting up to, and I was like, oh, just take me back to that night. It was
There's
just so fun.
videos.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
with
show you.
the.
I'll show you after this. It's not
Oh, I know
appropriate,
what
but
you. Okay, but yeah, there. It was just pretty funny. Yeah, I have pictures and whatever, and yeah, what a. Yeah, and I remember you got mad. I actually want to say this on mic because I think it's funny. You were ready.
yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Ari was ready to go
Oh
home back
god.
because he was tired, and I decided to jump after I was drying myself up. Davis had jumped into the pool, producer
Oh
Davis, and
no.
I
Oh god.
decided to jump in there, and Ari just looked at me scowling, and he's like, "Why would you do that?" And he looked so mad.
Well,
It
put it
was.
in my point of view. I'm like so exhausted. I'm gonna spend the next 2 days at Disneyland, and Mike's finally got himself dry and ready to go, and then he. Oh god. Honestly, I blame that more on Davis and Chu, because they were egging you on so much. But and when
I
you got
remember.
out, you were like, look, man, when someone tells me what to do, I'm just gonna do it. And I was like,
I remember looking at Ari. I was like, "Gonna jump," and I
yeah,
didn't. And then when I like resurfaced from the water, he's like, "Why would you do that?" It was just funny moments like that between us. I was like, "Oh, he's mad."
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it's just moments like that that I think back and I'm like, "Wow, what a cool moment!" And one of my favorite moments was just settling into our little hotel area. And
yeah.
the first thing we did was not even like, oh, let's check out the bathroom. Let's check out, where's this and that.
Uh,
Immediately you put my book bag down and you're like, okay, and you start taking out your mic, then my mic, and you're doing all this testing by there's like a little booth area. And we
yeah.
like recorded straight away, we recorded like a little diary update of
Yeah,
like how our
which
experience
I
was going.
deleted by accident, and it's
You did
it's
it on
killing me to
purpose.
get that footage back, but it's long gone, unfortunately. But
But yeah, like it's just moments like that. So celebration. I'm actually kind of excited to sit this one out, the next one, just so I can
yeah,
sit back because there's so much that happened and we went to every single panel and it was
mhm,
tiring. So I just want to sit back and relax and
yeah,
spectate
we can chill out
this
and
time
talk to you guys about that on the show, which will be
on the
fun.
show.
But yeah, I guess I'm just kind of going through our catalog of episodes. We already kind of touched on the Daniel Jose thing, but obviously that was a huge
What a
highlight for
huge
us.
moment.
Covering Boba, covering Obi-Wan, Lego Star Wars, some great stuff. So I guess all of that takes us to the point where I get on the plane at LaGuardia, fly over to Chicago. We're back we're back together after like maybe a month apart. I'm there for like a week and a half. And yeah, we recorded 3 podcast episodes. 2 of them have come out. One of them's never going to. Uh, so we recorded Galaxy's Edge review, which was really nice to do, even though it had been a month since we gone. That's still a really good episode of the show. I'd recommend checking out. And then we recorded the story of the Star Wars Exchange, which is another one of my favorites, because we don't even really talk about Star Wars besides in the context of how it shaped the podcast and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And people listen to that, which we were shocked by. We were just doing it for ourselves, if anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
we finally got to record in-person podcast in the room Mike is sitting in right now. And yeah, it was effing fun. It was good. But yeah, tell us how your
No,
experience of that
what
was.
was your experience like? What was it like coming
Oh
here in
man.
Chicago and all that? You say it now.
Okay, well, just Chicago in general was an absolute blast. Mike's family was so lovely and welcoming, which was awesome because I was very comfortable in that environment. Um, and then, oh man, there's too much to even think of Chicago. But the thing that's just coming to mind randomly is we went to like a baseball game, and we don't really have baseball like that over here in Australia, so it's a bit foreign to me. So I was a bit excited by it. And I just remember that whole day, just the antics we were getting up to, chasing each other around like the parking lot, and just like,
Oh
oh,
man, it
that was just
was
it was fun. But
so funny.
that's just one of many random memories. Going to the Bean was actually super fun because we were messing around there as well. But me and Mike aren't like vandalism like
No.
kind of people. By the way, that's not what I mean by antics. It's more just like messing around. But and then we got to the point of recording the podcasts, and I think at least we okay. So there's two different stories to tell here. One is when we actually did the podcast that you guys have seen, and those were just good fun. We got to sit in the room together. It was a surreal experience, but so much fun. Because we didn't quite get to do that at Celebration, we just more did videos rather than podcasts. And then and then there was one night where we thought, I think I was pushing really hard for it to be like, I was like, let's just like have a bunch to drink and then just like start recording the podcast. And I was like, it'll be great. And then before we recorded, like I've just spilt my drink like all over the table. It's getting all on the equipment. And then like we go to record it. And I remember thinking like 20 minutes in, I was like, this is such a good episode. Like it's going to be so funny. All of this can go to air. And then like Mike said one thing, and I was like, oh damn, that's one thing I'm gonna have to chop out. And then by the end of the episode, I was like, you know what? It's fine. There's only like 3 or 4 things I'll need to cut out. And then I rewatched the episode the next day, and I was like, no one is ever going to see this ever because it's just horrible.
No,
But
and
yeah, it was good fun. But tell us about your experience.
wow, I'm actually sorry. I got teary-eyed because yeah, it was a lot of fun. Surreal too, because again, like as I said at the beginning of the episode, um it just I never thought that doing the podcast like that would ever lead to just the incredible fun that we had in here at my place and stuff. And it was just yeah, surreal. And yeah, that podcast recording with the yeah, that episode was so funny. Like
Yeah.
I think back to that, and I remember the drink being all over the table, and the table then falling, and all the
Oh
equipment
yeah,
was
I forgot
going,
about that.
all the equipment was
Oh
sliding to one side, and I was like, oh man, it looks like it's going up actually, but
yeah.
I was kind of lost.
I
But
just realized in this episode, I said that I wasn't allowed to drink in America because I'm not
yeah,
21, and then I just talked about how it's whatever. We'll be
well,
right. We'll
yeah,
be fine.
we'll deny it in court. But
Yeah.
it was just, it was really surreal. And you know, on a actual like friendship level, it was just you know, like it was like crazy. Like I was just like,
Mm,
this is my bro right here. Like this is bro for life. So
yeah.
in those moments I realized that, and it was just like unreal to me. It was unreal.
Yeah.
So for real, the friendship that you see projected out there on like Instagram or YouTube or even here of us is genuine. Like it's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's just we've connected in a different way and stuff. So it's just like, oh, like I think back to that, and I did get teary eyed because it's just like I forgot about all that stuff, really. Like not
Yeah.
forgot, but it's just like it's just, you know, it's like you're like 6 months away from that. So it's like you could
Yeah.
just forget about those moments, or especially like the emotional value that they have. So like when Ari was talking, I was like, oh man, like that just took me back. So anyway,
Yeah.
sorry about that. But yeah, like
You should be.
seriously, it was just the most fun. And we just didn't want to do anything like in terms of podcasting and stuff immediately. Like we just want to hang out, chill out. I mean, it was just so cool, even just sitting next to this guy, like having a drink. Like it was just like cool because we don't get to do that on a regular basis at all. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty I would say that whole hangout stuff was really if not the highlight of my year, one of the highlights. So
Yeah.
I would probably strive up there
Same.
for like right there and as the highlight, because I just had the best time. And when
Yeah.
Ari left, I was like, "Whoa, where's my life? What do I do now?" And I was forcing myself to get out of my house because I was kind of getting really sad, and I
Yeah.
forced myself to mingle with people because I just got really sad. So I would say, like, yeah, that was just a moment. So yeah, lots of
Yeah.
memories, lots of things that will get shared over time. It's a lot happened. So
Yeah.
just so there you
A
go.
lot happened in like a very short amount of time, so it was hard to like digest it all. But yeah, no, absolutely, I'm with you with all on that. It was uh yeah, one of the best times. But I thought just before we wrap up, we should say a thank you to everyone who's actually joined us on the show this year. So way long ago, Noah Fortner, thanks for coming on for Book of Boba.
Yeah,
Noah Outlaw, thank you very much for coming on Book of Boba. We appreciate that. True for coming on some of the celebration YouTube videos. We appreciate that. Daniel Jose Older, of course. Parks, as we've already said, coming on for multiple episodes. And then I think, and I hope that's everyone. Davis as well, just for all his help during celebration and for the awesome celebration interview episode that's on the channel. But yeah, that what is the final thing I could really think of to touch on just from this year would be covering the books. I thought was really fun. We did Fallen Star, Brotherhood, and The Princess and the Scoundrel. By the time we got to Princess and the Scoundrel, I was getting a bit sick of that particular book. But yeah, I guess we already kind of brought up the Brotherhood stuff, but that was just another aspect of the show that was just so much fun to do. So
it
yeah,
was. It was. It felt like we were reading that book in sync too. So for once, because like I said before, when Rising Storm came out, Ari and I were. I think we were just like we were chill, like we were friends, whatever. Like
yeah,
it had been months since I talked to him, or a couple months or whatever, and he
yeah,
reached out and he was, "I want to be on this podcast." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then we talked a little bit about Rising Storm beforehand too. He would text me like what he thought of the book and stuff, and I'd
yeah,
be like, "Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I remember experiencing that."
yeah,
So then going from that to Fallen Star, where it was like almost a year ago in January, same stuff, where he was texting me, or we would be on FaceTime. He's like, "Why didn't you like the book?" And it was just the funniest thing ever. Because I was like, I do like the book. It was so
yeah,
funny, this man. But then when we got to do Brotherhood, it was like exciting because I had pushed him to explore people and of the context, to get in touch where they could send him a copy
yeah.
of copies of the books. And look at him now, and he lives in Australia, and Delray was able to make it work. So shout out to them as well. So now
For
he's in that
real, for
pool.
real.
He's in that pool. So it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that this guy has definitely deserved it, earned it, and all that. So it was just
Many
incredible.
thanks to you for making a lot of that possible, though. Something I want to say though was it has been a year of us doing the show. Obviously, if you're a long time listener, before we like officially joined together, I maybe did like 30 episodes before, and we're almost on our 50th episode together. We wanted to make it coincide with a year, but it just wasn't going to work. We're like 3-4 episodes away from the 50th, so that'll be cool. But yeah, so before we were even like really podcast partners, I think for maybe the last like 10 or so episodes of like my solo run, Mike was on like every second episode, because that's just how I was having fun, and that's how it all eventuated, which you can go and listen to in the story of the Stars Exchange episode. But before we move on to the next sort of portion of this episode, talking about the podcast's future, is there anything else you want to say about the year? Maybe give us like your favorite episode of the podcast, or something like that. But yeah,
Oh man.
go for it. Or you can do a top three or something if you
Yeah,
wanted.
I'll
But
do
yeah,
I'll do the top three. Let me quickly
yeah,
browse here, but I remember that just what a year in review, right? But I
yeah,
mean, I think for me, and it also like I'm looking at this, going to our YouTube channel. I'm like, oh yeah, we have a new logo. Like it hasn't clicked
yeah.
with me yet. So
Did we even mention that? I think we did. Yeah,
yeah, we
we
did.
have a
You
new
at the
logo for
start.
this new era. There it is up here, and I think it really suits the upcoming vibe of the show.
Oh, it
We're
does.
going vintage. Like this is like a yeah. It's kind. I just like the vintage theme sort of, because that's kind of what we're doing, going back in time a bit. But yeah,
Yes, yes, for sure. I agree. I mean, I
yeah,
would have to say, like, I think that, obviously, Danny Jose is up there just because we
yeah,
had so much fun with it. The top five Rebels episodes was incredible, and that came from Ari.
yeah. That was
Um,
so fun. Yeah,
it's funny because this is the collaborative process that I was wanting, and we kind of it was hard to find our footing after covering a series. Like, what do we do now, right? And
Yeah.
we kind of had a disagreement on where we should go, and then Ari was
Yeah.
very adamant on doing this rebel stuff, and I was like, okay, then let's do it. Because I was more of like, let's podcast the conventional style, like let's pull the stuff, the news from the week, and let's go from there, or bring up a topic. And he's like, no, I really want to do this top 5 rebels thing. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I gave him a hard time for it, and he kept pushing. And I was like, let's just do it. And it was just incredible to sit there, because then it unlocked like conversations, and then all of you guys were sharing your top 5s and
Yeah.
sharing it on social
That
media, and
episode has 300 views as well. I'm just seeing
it,
now.
it was
And that's
incredible.
just on YouTube. Yeah.
That's
That
just
was a
on
fun
YouTube.
episode.
And then the
Yeah.
everything you need to know about the Lego Star Wars one was so super cool, and not because we
Yeah.
got 2,000 views on it, but because it was a collaborative effort. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I wrote out the script, and then Ari did something
Yeah.
else, and then we
Yeah.
said, like, it was just so cool to put together and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that sparked, because of the success and the fun we had with that one, it just sparked a whole bunch of editorial videos that we do now. Like the reason you
Yeah.
get uh Tales of the Jedi pregame show is or
Yeah.
and or pregame show is because of that
And
video,
Obi-Wan. Yeah.
and Obi-Wan. So it's like,
Yeah.
that one. And then I think the other one, I mean, the ones at Celebration were really cool. I think I guess the Our Story one has to be my favorite that we've done, because
Yeah.
it was so chill, and it was
Yeah.
obviously in person, but it was like, I remember being like kind of stressed out about it, because I was like I'm not really gonna write out like a guide, or I'm not gonna do a rundown sheet this week. We're just gonna just like shoot it, and
Mm.
you can just talk about what you want to share and stuff. And I'm pretty sure we're just sitting here on my bed, and I was like, okay, if you say so. And then we sat back at, we set the table back up and everything, and we sat down to record. And it was just like, it's like if we could talk for hours about,
Yeah.
like about our journey and stuff like that, individually and then together. So that was a lot of fun. So I think that one would have to be my favorite. But I think it was also cool, the Star Wars, or We Are Back, the start of season 2, just because it
Mm.
was like,
Mm.
like I said, when you had left, I got very sad and sulky and whatever. But and then also the podcast had gone away for a bit, so I was like, "What is my life right now?" Like literally, my life changed after that. But I was like,
Mm.
"What am I doing?" And then once we came back, it felt like we came back, running on the ground. So that one was also a really cool one. Like it just felt we're back, and it was
Yeah.
like you were back in Australia in your room for the first time in months,
Yeah.
doing an episode. So yeah, and our celebration experience as well was super cool to talk about. And then I mean, a special shout out to the which one was it, the major news and announcements coming at Star Wars Celebration. It was our last episode before we met, so that was really like we were
Yeah.
about to break new territory after that. And I remember ending the episode with one of us pointing, like we're trying to point at each other or something, and we
Yeah.
just did this dumb bit where we didn't know because it's mirrored or whatever. And we were
Yeah.
just like so excited to go into this. You were getting ready to travel abroad, and I was getting ready to travel from home and stuff. So
Mm.
what a time. So yeah, those are some
Yeah.
of my favorite videos that we've done.
Yeah.
But really, there's no, I mean, we'll get into some things later, but like there's really no videos that I think that we've done that I've like disliked or be like, oh man, that was
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. For sure. I
How about
think
you?
real quick, I'll say my top 3. In number 3 would be announcements to expect at Celebration, just because it was the last one we did before we met, and I just love the energy, the excitement, the anticipation of
You
that
could tell we
episode
were
was just
excited a little
awesome.
too
Oh yeah,
much.
yeah. And then my second would be Daniel Jose Aldo. That one is really hard to beat, but the one that does was definitely the story of the Star Wars Exchange, just because it was our first one in person, and it was just an epic episode. But yeah, that's the year in review. If you've been along with us the whole journey, or even just the last few months, or whatever it is, please like comment and let us know like what was your favorite episode. What are some highlights that you have maybe listening to the show or something like that? Because we'd love to hear from you guys. But yeah, that's the year. It's been fantastic. And of course, before it would be remiss not to say thank you everyone who had listened, especially those who really tune in every week, because we know there's a few people out there that do, and that is like so appreciated. But everyone that listens. We appreciate all of you so much. And
Seriously.
yeah. But yeah, so let's talk about the future of the show, because we are making a few changes. We didn't really touch on it, but because of maybe the interesting circumstances around covering Andor. But in covering that show, we just have noticed some things that we want to change about it. While we did have fun, talking week to week about it, you guys will have noticed if you were tuning in that we were losing energy. We were getting very tired because our schedules were just becoming so conflicting, and we're living on other sides of the world, so the time zones are different. So organizing, times to record on in a really tight space of time can be super hard to do and a little bit draining. And at the end of the day, we do this for fun, and we want it to be fun for us, because if it's not fun for us, it's not going to be fun to listen to at the end of the day. So we're going to make some minor adjustments, and to explain it as best I can, what you can expect now is that while we will still be covering every piece of Star Wars that we want to, Bad Batch, we'll be covering that. What else is coming out? Jedi Survivor, we'll be covering that. Mando Season 3, covering that. Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, everything. We're covering it, but just not in maybe in the formal way we have with the other ones, where it's like week to week, we're dropping an episode on it. So one of the biggest changes, I guess, will be like the schedule, in the sense that there isn't one, because scheduling times has become increasingly difficult for us. So while we are hoping to still get at least one podcast a week, sometimes there might be one every 2 weeks, or if there's really nothing going on and we're super busy, maybe once every 3 weeks. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we'll still be firing content out the gates all the time. And so for something that we think really deemed like its own episode, like the Bad Batch premiere, we'll give that its own episode when we can. But say a Bad Batch episode 4, it's just I don't know, the equivalent to the Infested episode, where we just don't have a lot to say about it. We'll still cover it, but we're just not going to be doing an episode, the Bad Batch episode 4 review or whatever it is. So episodes will be more flexible, and I think that'll actually make the show a bit better, because while we'll have a 50-minute episode that week, in 10 minutes of it we will talk about that Bad Batch episode, but there's other stuff we want to talk about, because when we were covering Andor, we noticed there were things that were coming out, but we just didn't have the forum to talk about it, because we didn't have the energy to do anything but the Andor review. So I hope I'm making sense, but overall, we just want to give ourselves more flexibility. We think it'll make the show better and just easier to engage with. There is some other stuff that maybe we won't talk about as much today, but there will still be potentially videos every week covering Bad Batch, just not in the sense of the podcast. But we'll talk more about it at a later date, because nothing's really locked in yet. But yeah, I guess that's as best as I can explain it. Do you have stuff you want to add or talk to on that,
Yeah.
Mike?
I mean, and it was such a hard time doing Andor sometimes because of, the various things going on, Uh, I mean, you could put or two together that sometimes, not that Ari and I were fighting behind the scenes, but it just got tough sometimes,
Yeah.
to collaborate and put stuff out or be on the same page on things, or
Yeah.
me being like, I'm not staying up till 5 a.m. today,
Yeah.
it's just stuff like that. So it just overall affected the mood too, because if you look at the finale episode that we did, it looks like I have a resting, what face. It just looks like I look like Chris Pine when Harry Styles is talking about what a movie is. I just look like that Chris Pine. I don't know if I'll show you a picture later. But I just look out of it. I look zoinked. And I think that's just the toll what happens when you cover, and this is not like a series like we're doing bad. This was a very detailed, series, and it was just, you had a either and it sucked because it came out, the episodes would come out 2 a.m. for me, and then Ari was like, "Oh, let's record tomorrow," and I'm like, I forgot what the episode was even about sometimes, and because of my hectic Wednesday schedules, I have work at this one place, work at home, then I would actually have to go out to this other job and work on site. And by the time I got back, I was like, I'm tired. And I don't remember what Saul Guerrero said to Two Tubes. I just don't. It was just that type of stuff. But I mean, we got our stuff together and we're like, we got to change things up because it wasn't like a little mini series, like or it wasn't like Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett where it's like 7, 8 episodes where it's like, okay, that's manageable, right? That's kind of more manageable week to week. Like just put all your stuff together, and if you gotta miss out a week, you miss out a week. But like Andor 12 episodes, that was brutal. And I got anxiety when I tell you I got anxiety when Bad Batch was like, oh, we're gonna do 16 episodes for season 2. I was like, I am not doing that for 16 weeks, nor am I. On top of that, are we going to be covering Mandalorian? And on top
Yeah.
of that, we're going to be in the mix, I should say, we're going to be covering the Jedi Survivor book because I think we
Yeah.
are. Like, at least I want
We
to,
will.
if it's stuff to talk about. But
Yeah.
then also the Jedi Survivor game, and then a month or not even a month after that is Star Wars Celebration London, and it's like, what? And it's like
Yeah.
Ari's in the middle of the summer right now, and then he's gonna be going into then college again. I just finished my college career. Now I'm getting into, the workforce. So it's like we can't, it's just so
Yeah.
well, we're not taking a step back. We're just we're doing content control. That's what we're
Yeah.
doing because it's
We're
like
trying to just open things up and and give ourselves the flexibility that's
right.
required to do this show.
Right, because we don't want to
Yeah.
be like we were at Celebration. Like, expect like 5 videos from us each day. Because then
Yeah.
we once we got on site, we're like, we can't even put out one video. Like, it was just that impossible by the stuff we were covering. So, and by the time producer Davis was able to help us out with some of the videos, like it was just impossible. So we don't want to get your expectations up, but we are going to be doing something differently, a different approach to Bad Batch. As already said, we're going to
Yeah.
be more including it in our conversations. Unless like something crazy happens, like Rex and Ahsoka show up, then it's like we're going to spend at least 30 minutes talking about this and stuff. So it's
And
not,
like
it's case to case.
we will want to be like, yeah, something big happens like that. We'll want to jump on the mic as soon as we can. It's just like, instead of forcing ourselves to talk about things that we're not even that invested on, it's like
Like the
just
Fennec
open it
Shand
up.
episode or Rancor.
Like, yeah, like the podcast episodes will come out when they should come out, and it'll make the content better, and they'll still be sub regular. Like, I don't know when it will be, but that's kind of the point. Is that like, yeah, Bad Batch, we'll talk about every episode at some point, even if that means we miss 4 weeks. Then the next episode, expect us to talk about the recent 4 episodes. You know what I mean? So
right.
And then when Mando comes around, maybe we'll want to talk about each episode for that, but that's still 2.5 months away, so we're not quite there yet. But taking more of a like day-to-day approach, just to try and like open things up and make it easier for ourselves, because it's been pretty difficult to manage the last few months.
Right, and rather to be like, and then also in the mix of that, you and Parks had to cover Tales of the Jedi as well.
Yeah, true.
So it's just very tiring, and I mean, it's just better like this than promising all you guys, that we're gonna do all this stuff and then not deliver. So you're still, as I said, we're still gonna talk about each Bad Batch episode, but it might not come to you at that time and place that you want. But where you can actually keep up to date on what we're doing is our Instagram page, the SW Exchange. Seriously, go follow it, because actually that's one thing that Ari and I still have to adjust with each other. We have to kind of get better at communication with y'all, but we've been busy, and unfortunately, we just get very busy with stuff. I just showed him a post that I'm posting soon, and I'm like, oh sure, I should probably communicate to Ari that I'm posting this, or we're gonna do a collab or something about it. So it's like, it just, you guys,
you just swore, by the way.
I just what?
You just swore.
What did I say?
You said SHIT.
Oh my god.
No, it's fine. It's like, it was like under your breath enough. They said it in Andor, so who cares?
Oh yeah, right. And
they said it once in Andor, so we can say it once an episode as well.
Okay, guys. Thank you for allowing me. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's just, when I'm waking up, Ari's going to sleep, and kind of almost vice versa, but not really. But it's kind of hard sometimes for us to even communicate. And then he has stuff going on, I have stuff going on. You don't know how many times I've called him, he's been busy, or vice versa. And I was like, sorry, gotta go. So it's sometimes just gets hard. So also bear with us on that front as well. But seriously, go check out the Instagram page, because we are going to be announcing things and posting things on when and where you can expect the episodes.
And also, this is like, we're not saying this is how it will be forever. It's like, this is just how it is for the foreseeable future. Like, who knows how we'll be covering the podcast in a month's time, like in a year's time, let alone like a month.
Right.
Like it just, who knows? Like
In a year, we'll be in person together doing the
oh
podcast side by
god,
side.
I sure hope so. but but yeah. Anyway, that's sort of the general vibe. We'll communicate more as we learn more about how this is all going to work. There might be some changes to like how the YouTube channel runs, but as I said, we'll talk about that once we have a clearer idea of what's going to actually happen with that. But yeah, that's sort of the episode. Thanks so much for anyone who's tuned in, because once again, I know this is more of a personalized episode for us, so maybe not everyone's crazy on listening, but we are surprised every time we put out an episode like this that people actually do. So yeah, thanks to everyone, and once again, thank you to everyone for tuning in this last year. It's been such a fun time. Thank you to you, Mike, for joining the podcast and producing almost 50 episodes of the show with me. So yeah,
Man,
it's been an absolute blast. And yeah.
has never did expect it to go where it has. And I'm telling you, I remember it was, I've said this before on I don't know which podcast, but Ari had asked me, it was like days or, day after his birthday. And he was like, oh, I want to talk to you about something. I was like, yeah, sure. What's up, kid? Like, I was just like, yeah, what up? I no, you were 18. You were already, but I was just like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, oh, like, and I actually tuned into his podcast because I think they were well produced and everything. And he was just funny. Like, I love like joking around with him behind the scenes, but then on the mic, he was just like so serious and everything. And I just love that. So he asked me to be on, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, really? I thought you were gonna say like, oh, I'm gonna think about it. I was like, no, man, let's do it right now. Like, and we had to wait. It was excruciating because we were doing like pre-production work on it, like stuff like Ari was assembling, the art and stuff. I was assembling like audio, or I don't, just getting ideas and stuff. But we both were like, he was finishing exams and I was finishing, my course. And it was just excruciating. I remember the day I had finished finals, I was like, Ari, let's get to work. And immediately we started getting to work and stuff, putting out, the Spotify, doing all the promo stuff. And I still remember when we were going to do an announcement, Ari was just like, just make something simple. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then eventually, and this is the problem that I have, is that like I'll make something simple and then add on to it. So I just made like this whole announcement thing with like, giving some funny background about Ari. He's from Australia and he's this and that. And like it just turned out to be this whole post. And I still look at that and being like, wow, like just ways that we've come. So yeah, no, thank you for, befriending me and everything. Like we've said in the past, like, friendship and everything, like it's just meant the world. And I think this podcast has literally changed my life. And one day I'll talk more in depth about that. But for now, thank you everyone that's listened and been on this journey with us. Like it was so cool, bringing this to you guys, and then you guys following us to Anaheim and being like, oh my God, they're together, they're meeting, and even following our Chicago adventures around. And it's just cool. Like it's already cool having a friendship with someone and like that, but then it's like people care about it. It's kind of cool. So thank y'all for real for listening. And yeah, like it's just all to you guys. This wouldn't have happened without you guys. So appreciate you guys tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that I relay that sentiment. Sorry, I went straight into wrapping up the episode. But
every time
no,
I open up, Ari's like, well, all right, moving on. We're gonna close.
No, it's all true. This show is means a lot to both of us, and it's crazy that it's celebrating its 1 year birthday. So yeah, but that is today's episode. Thanks for anyone listening. You can follow Mike on Instagram at @all_Star Wars. You can follow me at @StarWars_Exchange. As we said, make sure you follow us on Instagram, the podcast page at the SW Exchange. If you're on Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating. Apple Podcast 5-star rating. Really appreciate it. If you're on the YouTube, subscribe, like the video, all that sort of stuff. It means a lot to us when we can get all that stuff up, get more people listening and engage with the show. So yeah, thanks so much for the year. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all for hopefully like maybe a Christmassy episode next week. We're still talking about that, but yeah, may the force be with you all. See you later.